Lesson 18, the Bill of Rights. We know the Bill of Rights consists of the first 10 amendments to the Constitution. They were added in a package introduced by James Madison in a series of amendments in 1791 and ratified by 3/4 of the states in the same year. So the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights. First Amendment, we know already, contains our 5 basic freedoms of religion, which includes the establishment and free exercise clauses, speech, press, peaceful assembly, and petition. The 5 basic freedoms, 45 words, rated E for everyone. The Second Amendment, much debate over the Second Amendment these days. It's the right to own firearms. In fact, it was the most recent Supreme Court case regarding this right, the District of Columbia versus Heller in 2008, where the court did uphold the individual's right to bear arms. Some had believed that the Second Amendment only allowed states to keep an armed militia or local army. Others believed it guaranteed the right of individual citizens to keep and bear arms. Here's the wording of the Second Amendment. A well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms, shall not be infringed. Again, militia, meaning local army. We know that the National Rifle Association is a very powerful interest group in favor of the right to keep and bear arms. Many believe that is an essential part of being an American. It's part of our history, makes us uniquely different than other countries. We have a Second Amendment allowing citizens to keep and bear arms. My body, my choice, including the means of protecting it. It's a different take on choice. But look at all the different types of firearms available for civilians to access today. It's very controversial. Oftentimes our law enforcement are being outgunned by private citizens with their means to semi-automatic pistols and rifles. It's a big debate, still a current debate. But the Supreme Court in the Heller case has determined that the Second Amendment does protect the individual's right to keep and bear arms. Third Amendment, protection against quartering soldiers. No soldier shall, in time of peace, be quartered in any house without the consent of the owner, nor in time of war, but in a manner to be prescribed by law. As an owner of a house, you do not have to quarter or house a soldier in time of peace. In a time of war declared by Congress, however, that situation could change. The Fourth Amendment is our protection against illegal search and seizure, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the persons or things to be seized. So our Fourth Amendment is our protection against unreasonable searches and seizures. If police believe you have committed a crime, they can ask a judge for a search warrant. That search warrant describes specifically the places to be searched. The Fifth Amendment provides legal protections and what we call due process. indictment by a grand jury, no double jeopardy, no self-incrimination, due process, and eminent domain. Indictment is an official charge. A grand jury is a different type of jury. We'll talk more about this process when we get to our legal system. An indictment is an official charge of wrongdoing. A grand jury is not a trial jury. It's put together, a jury of your peers. The prosecution presents evidence to a grand jury, and then the grand jury decides if there is enough evidence to charge an individual with a crime. Indictment by a grand jury. No double jeopardy. Once you are acquitted of a crime, you cannot be tried again for committing that crime. No self-incrimination. You have the right to remain silent. You do not have to give up evidence against yourself. Due process. These are the procedures, the protocols, the processes that have to be followed by law enforcement. And we'll take you through how that process works, again, in our later unit. An eminent domain, a Fifth Amendment right that you have the right to your property. If the government deems it necessary to take a part of your property for public use, they must pay you a just compensation, a fair market value for that property. We call that eminent domain. Fifth Amendment, legal protections and due process. If it weren't for the second, we wouldn't need to plead the fifth. My client would like to plead the fifth, Your Honor, and any other amendment that you feel might be appropriate. The Sixth Amendment, rights of the accused. This is your speedy and public trial, an impartial jury where the crime was committed, informed of the nature of the charges against you, the right to call witnesses, the right to confront witnesses, the right to have legal counsel. These are all Sixth Amendment due process rights of the accused. And we have our rights of the accused not to protect the criminal, but to protect the falsely accused, the wrongly accused. There's just certain procedures and protocols that have to be followed when a person is charged with a crime. Speedy and public trial, impartial jury. You have to be told of the nature of the charges against you. And again, witnesses, to call witnesses, to confront witnesses, and to have legal counsel. And again, we will review these when we go through our legal unit on our criminal justice system. So our Fifth and our Sixth Amendments are the rights that we have as accused people when we are accused of violating the law. The Seventh Amendment is our civil jury guarantee, and we have a trial by jury in civil cases, not just in criminal cases, but in civil cases involving more than $20. Now, that was back in 1791, when the Bill of Rights were added to the Constitution. So $20 is not the amount today. In North Carolina, for example, that right to a trial by a jury in a civil case is $10,000 in Superior Court. I'm not trying to equate $20 back in 1791 as $10,000 today, but that's just in our state. You have a right to a trial by jury in a civil case. This is when one party brings a lawsuit against another party. And again, we'll talk more about civil law in addition to criminal law when we study our legal system and our criminal justice system in greater detail. The Eighth Amendment, no cruel or unusual punishment. Very short amendment. This shows the influence of the English Bill of Rights on our Bill of Rights. No excessive fines or bail. No cruel or unusual punishment. The Eighth Amendment. Of course, capital punishment, the death penalty, is often debated. The Supreme Court has ruled that the death penalty is constitutional. It does not violate cruel and unusual punishment as long as it is consistently applied. The Ninth Amendment, the listing of the rights in the Constitution does not preclude other rights not listed. So we call this the Other Rights Guarantee. So it's a very short amendment. The enumeration in this Constitution, that means the listing of rights. The enumeration in this Constitution of certain rights shall not be construed to deny or disparage other rights or others retained by the people. Meaning not every single right that we have is listed in the Bill of Rights. That's what the Ninth Amendment means. An often cited example is the right to privacy. The Supreme Court has ruled that we as American citizens have a constitutional right to privacy, even though the word privacy does not appear in our Bill of Rights. So we'll talk about that privacy guarantee in a later Supreme Court case that we'll study in a later unit. But the Ninth Amendment, we have other rights than those listed in the Constitution, in the Bill of Rights. Are you in the mood to exercise our constitutional rights? Rights to privacy. The 10th Amendment is the States' Rights Amendment. The powers not delegated to the national government are reserved to the states respectively or to the people. This really was your Anti-Federalist Amendment. The Anti-Federalists were concerned that the national government was getting too much power from the new Constitution. So basically, the 10th Amendment says that any power not specifically delegated to Congress or the national government, any power not delegated to the Congress, nor denied to the states, are reserved to the states, respectively, or to the people. And we call this the States' Rights Amendment. Very important amendment to those who advocate for a more powerful state governments and less powerful federal government. The States' Rights Amendment, the 10th Amendment. And those are our Bill of Rights, the first 10 amendments to our Constitution. And this concludes Lesson 18.